Dr. Marcus Vance's fingers reached for Sarah Chen's mouth. "Open up. Say you want it." His hand was 3 inches from her lips when her teeth closed around his finger web. 200 psi of SEAL-trained jaw pressure, straight through skin, through muscle, grinding against bone. His scream tore through Building 7 like a wounded animal. Sarah didn't release. She shook her head like a predator with prey, tearing. Blood filled her mouth, hot and metallic, spraying across the camera lens that had filmed 63 women before her. Vance tried to pull away. She held on, locked, destroying the hand that had destroyed her best friend. Then she released him and whispered, "You forgot I'm a Navy SEAL." Before we begin, if you believe survivors deserve justice, hit that subscribe button. Stay with me until the end of this story, because what happens next will restore your faith that evil doesn't always win. Comment below with your city so I can see how far this fight for justice reaches across the world. Sarah Chen hadn't cried at Maya's funeral. Not when they folded the flag. Not when they fired the 21-gun salute. Not when they handed her the triangle of stars and stripes with words about honor and sacrifice and service to country. She'd stood in her dress whites, spine straight, face stone, while inside something fundamental shattered. Maya Torres had been her swim buddy through BUD/S, the person who'd pulled her through Hell Week when her body wanted to quit, the one who'd spotted for her on their first combat deployment in Kandahar when Sarah had taken a shot from 800 meters and saved 3 Marines pinned down by sniper fire. Maya had been the sister she'd chosen, the warrior she'd trusted with her life. And now Maya was in the ground at Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery, and the Navy was calling it suicide. The official report says she hanged herself in her barracks, Special Agent James Mitchell said, sliding the autopsy file across his desk. April 15th, 0300 hours. Naval Air Station Fallon, Nevada. No note, no indication of mental distress, just a perfectly healthy 26-year-old petty officer found dead by her roommate. Sarah picked up the file. The photos were clinical, detached. Maya's face, purple and swollen. The ligature marks. The overturned chair. Everything staged to look like despair. "Except Maya didn't kill herself," Sarah said. No, she didn't. Mitchell was 50s, gray hair, 25 years with NCIS. He had the look of someone who'd seen enough evil to stop being surprised by it, but hadn't stopped being angry. 72 hours before her death, Maya sent you an encrypted message. Mitchell continued. 3 words. Iron Phoenix. They're selling. Help. We intercepted it during routine security monitoring. Started investigating. What we found. He stopped, chose his words carefully. What we found is why you're here. Sarah's jaw tightened. She'd received Maya's message while deployed on a training rotation in Japan. By the time she'd decrypted it and tried to respond, Maya was already dead. The guilt had been eating her alive for 6 weeks. Iron Phoenix is a civilian contractor operation running out of Fallon's tactical combat training facility, Mitchell said. On paper, they conduct stress inoculation research for female personnel in combat roles. Legitimate DoD contract, approved funding, published research in military psychology journals. Dr. Marcus Vance runs it, former Army psychologist, Special Forces background, very credible credentials. But it's not legitimate research. No, it's a blackmail factory. Mitchell opened another file, thicker. For 18 months, they've been coercing female military personnel into what they call enhanced tactical stress evaluations. They isolate young women, film them under duress in compromising positions, then use the footage for blackmail. The victims are told everyone does it. that it's part of the program, that complaining means they're weak or unfit for combat roles. Sarah felt her hands curl into fists. How many? 31 confirmed victims, ages 19 to 24. All enlisted, ranks E1 through E4. All told, reporting would end their careers. 3 filed complaints anyway. The files disappeared in admin. 2 attempted suicide. 1 succeeded. That was Maya. The room pressed in. Sarah forced herself to breathe, to stay operational, to channel rage into something useful. Maya was investigating, Mitchell continued. She'd figured out the pattern, started collecting testimony from other victims. She left evidence hidden in her barracks, detailed notes, victim statements, server locations where Iron Phoenix stores their blackmail archive. We found it after her death. That's when we realized this wasn't just sexual assault. It's espionage. He pulled out surveillance photos, men in civilian clothes, faces circled in red. Iron Phoenix has been selling the blackmail footage to foreign buyers, defense contractors, intelligence services, private collectors. We've tracked Bitcoin transactions totaling $1.2 million over 18 months. The buyers include Chinese Ministry of State Security, Russian Federal Security Service, Iranian intelligence. Sarah's voice was flat, cold. They're selling compromised material of U.S. military personnel to hostile foreign governments. Yes, which makes this treason in addition to sexual assault, conspiracy, and about 15 other federal charges. But we can't prosecute without evidence that'll hold up in court-martial. The victims are too terrified to testify. The files are encrypted. The operation is sophisticated, compartmented, professionally run. We need someone inside. You need me inside. Mitchell leaned forward. You're a SEAL. You've got the training, the credentials, the operational security experience. You can go in as a sniper doctrine consultant, inter-service training exchange. Nobody at Fallon except the base commander will know you're NCIS. You observe, you document, you build a case. And when they try to recruit you into their program, because they will, you let them. You get their confession on tape. You preserve the evidence. Then we execute warrants and dismantle the entire network. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. What if they make a move before I have enough evidence? Then you're a trained Navy SEAL. You handle it. I'm not extracting until I have confessions. All of them. On record. Admissible in court. Sarah, all of them, she repeated. Maya died trying to get this evidence. I'm not leaving that room until I have what she couldn't get. Until every single person who touched her, who filmed her, who sold her, confesses on tape. Mitchell studied her. Your handler will be Master Chief Daniel Cross, retired SEAL, 61 years old, call sign Reaper. He trained both you and Maya at BUD/S. He's been investigating Iron Phoenix independently since Maya's death. Couldn't prove what he knew, couldn't get anyone to listen. But he's got resources, contacts, and he knows how to operate in hostile territory. Reaper, Sarah said softly. The legendary sniper instructor who'd passed her through BUD/S when half the cadre wanted her dropped because she was female. The man who'd told her quietly after Hell Week, "You've got something most of them don't. You know how to suffer and keep thinking." He'll provide technical support, surveillance equipment, extraction coordination. But Sarah, you need to understand something. Mitchell's voice went hard. If this goes wrong, if they realize you're investigating, they will use every tool they've got to destroy you. These people have been operating for 18 months with complete impunity. They've filmed 31 women, sold classified compromised material to foreign governments, and murdered at least one person we know of. They're not going to hesitate to do it again.
Then I won't give them the chance.
Mitchell slid a final folder across the desk. Your cover is established. You leave for Fallon in 72 hours. Master Chief Cross will brief you on tradecraft, surveillance protocols, evidence preservation. This is analog, old-school Cold War tactics. No digital trails they can hack. No electronic communications they can intercept. Just you, your training, and equipment that's older than you are, but works better than anything modern because it's too simple to fail. Sarah opened the folder. Her cover identity, training credentials, official orders assigning her to NAS Fallon for a 90-day rotation. Everything legitimate. Everything defensible.
One more thing,
Mitchell said quietly. He pulled out an evidence bag containing a bracelet. Turquoise beads on leather cord, handmade. We found this in Maya's personal effects. She was wearing it when she died. I thought you should have it. Sarah took the bracelet. She'd watched Maya make it during their deployment in Kandahar, fingers working the beads while they talked about home and family and whether they'd make it through the war. Maya had worn it every day for 4 years.
I'll get them, Sarah said. Every single one.
I know you will. That's why you're here. Sarah drove to Fort Rosecrans that afternoon. The cemetery sat on a hillside overlooking San Diego Bay, white marble headstones in perfect rows. Section 47, the newer graves, the ones from Iraq and Afghanistan and the forever wars that kept taking long after the news stopped covering them. Maya's headstone was simple. Petty Officer Maya Torres, United States Navy, 1998 to 2024. Beloved daughter, sister, warrior. Sarah knelt, placed the bracelet on the stone. The marble was warm from the California sun.
I found them,
she said quietly. Just for Maya. Just for the friend who'd died trying to stop monsters.
The place you were investigating, Iron Phoenix. I know what they did to you. I know about the footage, about the blackmail, about the 31 others. I'm going there, Maya. I'm walking into that same room, and I'm going to get the evidence you couldn't. I'm going to make sure every single person who touched you spends the rest of their life in prison.
The wind moved through the cypress trees. Somewhere a hawk called. The world kept turning the way it always did, indifferent to justice, indifferent to rage.
I'm sorry I didn't get your message in time,
Sarah continued.
I'm sorry I was halfway around the world when you needed me. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. But I'm going to stop them from doing this to anyone else. That's the promise. Not revenge. Justice. The kind that holds up in court. The kind that puts them in cages where they belong.
She stood, saluted the way they'd taught her at Annapolis, sharp and precise. Turned and walked back toward her car, leaving Maya in the ground with the other warriors who'd deserved better than what they got. Reaper lived 40 minutes north in Oceanside, a small house 3 blocks from the beach. Sarah arrived at sunset. He answered the door looking exactly like she remembered. Lean and weathered, gray hair still high and tight, eyes that missed nothing. Chen, he said, not a question, a statement of fact.
Master Chief?
It's just Reaper now. I'm a civilian contractor, which means I get to sleep past 0400 and nobody can yell at me anymore. He stepped aside. Come in. We've got work to do. The house was Spartan, military precision applied to civilian life. A kitchen table covered in files, photographs, equipment. No decorations except one photo on the wall. Bud/S-Class 289. Maya and Sarah stood together in that photo, soaking wet, covered in sand, grinning like they'd just conquered the world. I knew her, Reaper said, following Sarah's gaze. Trained both of you. Maya came back through Fallon last year on temporary duty. She never mentioned problems, never said a word about Iron Phoenix, just did her rotation and rotated out. Then 6 weeks later, she's dead, and I'm reading an autopsy report that says suicide. And I know that's bullshit because Maya Torres didn't quit. Not at anything, not ever.
She left evidence, Sarah said. Notes hidden in her barracks, victim testimonies, server locations. She was building a case.
I found some of it after her death, Reaper said. Went through her quarters before they cleared them out. Found files hidden in air vents, thumb drives taped under her bunk. She'd been investigating for months, talking to other women who'd been through Iron Phoenix's program, documenting everything. But she couldn't prove it, couldn't get anyone to believe her. The victims were too scared to come forward officially. The command structure at Fallon didn't want to hear it. He walked to the table, spread out surveillance photos. Iron Phoenix operates in a converted hangar at Fallon's north perimeter. Civilian contractor facility, access controlled, base security doesn't patrol inside. Dr. Marcus Vance runs it with 3 others. Riley Blackwood, former Marine interrogator, handles enforcement. Cameron Webb, signals intelligence specialist, manages their tech and surveillance. Dr. Jennifer Cross, psychologist, does the recruiting. Sarah studied the photos. Vance was 42, fit, handsome in that way that looked trustworthy in professional settings. Blackwood was massive, 6'4", 240 pounds of muscle and menace. Webb was younger, late 20s, slim build, the kind of person who disappeared into backgrounds. And Dr. Cross was 38, blonde, pretty, with a smile that probably made young women feel safe, right up until they realized what they'd walked into. Cross is the key, Reaper said. She's the one who recruits the victims, approaches them as a fellow female in a male-dominated field, builds trust, establishes rapport, makes them feel seen and understood. Then she suggests Iron Phoenix as professional development, as resilience training, as something that'll make them stronger and more competitive. By the time they realize what it actually is, they're already compromised. How does the operation work? Sarah asked. They identify targets, young females, new to combat roles, eager to prove themselves, isolated from family and support networks. Cross approaches them, usually in the chow hall or gym, strikes up conversation. Eventually mentions Iron Phoenix's research, how beneficial it is, how everyone who matters goes through it. Makes it seem exclusive, desirable. The targets volunteer because they think it's career advancement. Reaper pulled out a schedule. They run evaluations Tuesday and Thursday nights, 2100 to 2300 hours. That's when base security rotates shifts, gives them a 2-hour window with minimal oversight. They bring participants into the facility 1 or 2 at a time. Start with legitimate stress inoculation, sensory deprivation, stress positions, verbal pressure. Then they shift. Show the victim surveillance footage they've been collecting since she arrived on base. In her quarters, in the shower, in private moments. Tell her the footage already exists, that cooperation means it stays private, that resistance means it goes public or gets sold. Sarah's hands clenched. They film them first, then use the surveillance as leverage. Exactly. Classic intelligence operation. Establish compromat before the target knows they're being targeted. By the time the victim realizes what's happening, they're already compromised. Vance is former Special Forces PSYOPs. He knows how to break people psychologically, knows exactly what to say to make them comply, to make them think they have no choice. And then they film the evaluation, Sarah said. Right. Scripted phrases designed to sound like intelligence compromise or sexual consent, the kind of material that would destroy a career if released out of context. Once they have that footage, the victim is locked in. They're told everyone does it, that it's normal, that reporting means they're weak. Most never report because they're convinced no one will believe them. The 3 who did report, what happened to their files?
Disappeared in admin, Reaper said bitterly. Complaints filed with base security, with the command structure, with NCIS. All of them vanished. Someone inside Fallon's chain of command is protecting Iron Phoenix. We don't know who yet. That's part of what you're there to find out.
He walked to a locked case, opened it, pulled out equipment.
Mitchell told you this is analog, old-school tradecraft. That's because digital surveillance can be hacked, can be detected, can be compromised. What I'm giving you can't be.
First, a cassette recorder the size of a deck of cards, matte black casing, single red LED the size of a pinhead. CIA issue, 1987. Used in East Berlin for dead drop recordings. 4-hour battery life. We'll sew it into your sleeve, right forearm, microphone facing up. Even if they pat you down, they won't feel it. Feels like uniform reinforcement. Press and hold this switch for 3 seconds to activate. The LED blinks once, then nothing. No hum, no heat, no indication it's running. Just tape turning. Evidence accumulating. He handed it to Sarah. She activated it. The LED blinked. Silence. Second, Reaper continued, producing a small glass capsule. UV trace marker. You carry this in your cheek, back left molar. Crush it with tongue pressure if things go wrong. It releases a chemical compound, invisible to the naked eye, but glows under black light. Adheres to skin, fabric, surfaces, lasts 72 hours. If they try to clean up the scene, we'll still have physical evidence linking them to you. Sarah opened her mouth. Reaper positioned the capsule with dental adhesive. It seated with a click. Foreign, but manageable. Don't crush it unless you absolutely have to, Reaper warned. Once it's released, crime scene techs will find it, which means you need to be certain the scene is worth marking. Understood. Third, he pulled out a watch, simple, analog, waterproof. Emergency beacon. Press and hold the side button for 5 seconds. Silent alarm directly to my phone. If you signal, I'm coming through that door with base security and NCIS. No questions, no hesitation. He looked at her directly. Mitchell said you want 45 minutes inside before extraction. I'm giving you 30, not a second more. If your beacon doesn't signal by minute 30, I'm coming in anyway. I need confession time. 30 minutes, Reaper repeated, voice hard. Maya didn't have backup. You do. Use it. I'm not letting another SEAL die in that room because she waited too long to call for help. Sarah held his gaze, saw the guilt there, the weight of having trained Maya and sent her into the world and not protected her when it mattered. 30 minutes, Sarah agreed. Good. Reaper's shoulders relaxed fractionally. Now let's talk about how you get recruited. Cross will approach you within 72 hours of your arrival. She profiles every new female on base, identifies potential targets. You're perfect for them. High rank means high value for leverage. SEAL background means you're exactly the kind of elite operator they want in their archive. And female means you fit their victim demographic. How should I respond when she approaches? Cautiously interested. Don't seem too eager, that raises suspicion. Don't seem too resistant, that makes you a challenge they'll work harder to break. Play it as professional curiosity. Let her think she's convincing you, that you are considering it as career development. That's what they want. Willing participants who think they're making an informed choice. Sarah nodded, processing, building the operational profile in her mind. When you go into that facility Thursday night, Reaper continued, you'll be wired, you'll be marked, and I'll be monitoring from Fallon's security office. I've got contractor access as training oversight. I'll be watching their external cameras, tracking entry and exit, ready to move. But Sarah, his voice dropped. If they make you, if they realize you're investigating, you defend yourself. Evidence is secondary to survival. Evidence is the only thing that matters, Sarah countered. Maya died because there wasn't enough proof. I'm not making that mistake. I'm walking out of that room with confessions, or I'm not walking out at all. That's exactly what Maya said. Reaper's voice cracked slightly. 2 days before she died. I'm getting the evidence they can't ignore. And then they killed her and made it look like suicide and buried the investigation so deep nobody even asked questions. Then I'll make sure they can't bury this one. They worked through the night, Reaper drilling her on covert recording techniques, on how to position herself for optimal audio capture, on what questions to ask to elicit confession, on how to preserve chain of custody for evidence that would hold up in federal court. You need them to say specific things, Reaper explained. Number of victims, financial transactions, foreign buyers, systematic operation, intent to blackmail and coerce. Get them talking about the network, about how long it's been running, about who else is involved. The more detail, the less room for their lawyers to claim it was misunderstood or taken out of context. What about Vance? What's his weakness? Ego, Reaper said immediately. He's proud of Iron Phoenix. Thinks he's running a sophisticated intelligence operation. Get him talking about methodology, about success rates, about how he's outsmarted base security and NCIS for 18 months. His arrogance is your weapon. And Blackwood? True believer. Thinks he's serving a higher purpose. He's Russian intelligence, GRU embedded asset. We haven't confirmed it officially, but the pattern matches. Get him talking about international operations, about buyers, about ideology. He'll confess, because he doesn't think it's wrong. Webb? Mercenary. He's in it for money. Show him the math doesn't work, that he's going to prison regardless, and he'll flip to save himself. But you need the others first. Webb's confession only matters if you've already got Vance and Blackwood on tape. And Cross? Reaper was quiet for a moment. Complicated. She was a victim first, 3 years ago. They recruited her the same way she now recruits others. She's both perpetrator and victim, trapped in the cycle because they have footage of her, and she thinks cooperation is survival. She'll break if you show her there's a way out. But don't trust her sympathy. She's still bringing women into that room. Sarah absorbed it all, building the operation in her mind, visualizing each step, each conversation, each moment where evidence would be created or lost. I leave for Fallon in 60 hours, Sarah said finally. What else do I need to know? Maya left you something, Reaper said. He walked to a safe, opened it, pulled out a small notebook. Her personal journal from the investigation. I found it after her death. She was documenting everything. Victim testimonies, observations about Iron Phoenix's operation, patterns she'd identified. Read it. Learn from it. Let her investigation guide yours. Sarah took the notebook. Maya's handwriting, familiar and precise. The first entry was dated 9 months before her death. Talked to Seaman Jensen today. She went through Iron Phoenix 6 weeks ago. Won't give details, but I could see it in her eyes. The same look I've seen in assault victims. Started asking around. This is bigger than I thought. The entries continued, each one building the case Maya had died trying to complete. Victim after victim, pattern after pattern, evidence accumulated page by page, until the final entry, 3 days before Maya's death. Found the server location. Cameron Webb runs it from the facility's back office. Encrypted, but not impossible. If I can get access, I can prove everything.
Going to try Thursday night during their evaluation window. If something happens to me, Sarah will finish this. She always finishes what we start.
Sarah's vision blurred. She blinked hard, forced the tears back, channeled grief into something harder.
She knew, Sarah said. She knew they might kill her, and she went anyway.
Because she was a SEAL, Reaper said quietly. We don't leave people behind, even when it costs us everything. Sarah closed the notebook, held it against her chest.
I'm finishing this. For her. For the 31. For every woman they've hurt and every woman they were going to hurt. I'm walking into Iron Phoenix and I'm not leaving until they're all in handcuffs.
Then let's make sure you walk out alive, Reaper said.
60 hours later, Sarah drove through the main gate at Naval Air Station Fallon. The MP checked her credentials with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd processed 10,000 IDs and would process 10,000 more. He scanned, typed, waited for the system, then handed back her temporary badge. Training facilities are North Sector, ma'am. Admin will get you sorted. Sarah clipped the badge to her jacket, drove through. The base opened up ahead of her.
Somewhere in that sprawl of buildings and hangars and desert was the room where Maya had been filmed, where 31 women had been broken, where a network of predators operated with complete impunity. She found the tactical combat training compound by following the sound, controlled aggression, instructors shouting cadence, bodies hitting mats. The smell hit before she got out of the car. Sweat and rubber, and something chemical that might have been floor cleaner. The admin desk was staffed by a petty officer who looked 3 days past a regulation haircut, coffee stain on his uniform. He glanced up, saw her rank, straightened. "Ma'am, Lieutenant Commander Chen, correct? We've been expecting you."
"Sniper Doctrine Consultant Rotation," Sarah confirmed. He typed, frowned at his screen.
"System's not pulling your billet code."
Sarah leaned forward just enough to see the screen. "You entered the wrong prefix. November Victor, not Victor November."
He corrected it, flushed slightly. "Sorry, ma'am. Long day."
"Long war,"
Sarah said. He printed her permanent badge, handed it over with facility access credentials. "You'll want to check in with Master Chief Dalton for combat training rotations. For the advanced stuff, Dr. Vance runs the research programs. His facility is Building 7.
"Research programs?"
"Stress inoculation, resilience training, the cutting-edge psychological prep. All the elite operators go through it. Real career booster if you're selected." Sarah kept her expression neutral.
"Good to know."
She walked deeper into the compound, found the main training bay where 20 sailors ran through close-quarters drills. An older instructor, 60s, weathered face, moved through a demonstration with economy and precision. He disarmed a practice opponent with a wrist lock that flowed into a throw so smooth it looked rehearsed. Sarah watched for 3 minutes before the instructor called a water break. He noticed her immediately, walked over. "New face," he said. "Let me guess. Navy brass, sniper school. Here to tell us how we're doing it wrong." "Just here to learn what the inter-service community is teaching," Sarah said. He smiled slightly. "Master Chief Tom Dalton. I run the CQB rotations. You're the consultant Mitchell sent?" So he knew. Part of the operational security. Dalton was read into the investigation. "That's right." "Good timing," Dalton said quietly, voice low enough the sailors couldn't hear. "Dr. Vance is running an orientation briefing in 20 minutes. Building 7. You should attend. See what you're dealing with." "Appreciate it." Dalton's expression hardened for just a moment. "Your friend, Torres. I knew her. She came through here last year. Solid operator. What happened to her was wrong." "It won't happen to anyone else," Sarah said. Make sure it doesn't. Building 7 sat at the compound's north edge. Contained hangar, newer construction, access controlled with keycard readers. Sarah badged in. The interior was climate-controlled, modern, everything clean and professional. Medical equipment, observation rooms, what looked like legitimate research infrastructure. Dr. Marcus Vance stood at the front of a small briefing room, 20 personnel seated in rows. He was exactly like his photos, early 40s, fit, handsome in that trustworthy professor way. He smiled as Sarah entered. Come in. Always room for one more." His voice was warm, welcoming. "I'm Dr. Marcus Vance. You must be our new sniper consultant." "Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen." "Excellent. We're just starting orientation for this cycle's stress inoculation program. Please have a seat." Sarah sat in the back row, scanned the room. 18 females, 2 males, ages 19 to mid-20s, all looking eager, attentive, ready to prove themselves. Vance clicked to his first slide. "Welcome to Iron Phoenix Advanced Resilience Training. Over the next 6 weeks, you'll participate in protocols designed to enhance your psychological durability in high-stress combat environments. Our program has a 97% success rate. Participants report significant improvements in stress tolerance, decision-making under pressure, and overall operational effectiveness." He smiled, made eye contact with several participants. The room relaxed. He had that gift, making people feel seen, valued, important. Now, I know some of you have heard stories that our training is intense, that it pushes boundaries, that it's uncomfortable. He paused, let the tension build. All of that is true, because comfort doesn't prepare you for combat. Discomfort does. Stress inoculation works by exposing you to controlled adversity in a safe environment, so when you face real adversity downrange, your nervous system has already adapted. A young seaman raised her hand. "What does the training involve specifically?" "Great question. Phase 1 is physiological stress, exercise to exhaustion, cold water immersion, sleep deprivation in controlled doses. Phase 2 is psychological pressure, scenario-based evaluations where we challenge your decision-making and emotional regulation. Phase 3 is integration, full-spectrum scenarios combining physical and psychological stressors." He clicked to the next slide, showing smiling graduates. "Everyone who completes our program leaves stronger, but I want to be clear. This isn't mandatory. Participation is completely voluntary. If at any point you feel the training isn't right for you, you can withdraw. No judgment, no career impact. We want willing participants who are committed to growth." Sarah watched the faces around her, young, trusting, believing every word. Vance was masterful. Every phrase designed to create buy-in, to make them feel like they were choosing this. "Doctor, Cross will be your primary liaison," Vance continued, gesturing to a blonde woman in her late 30s standing near the door. "She's here to ensure you feel supported throughout the process. Any concerns, any questions, any need for adjustment, she's your advocate." Dr. Jennifer Cross smiled, warm and genuine. "I went through this program myself 3 years ago. I know how challenging it can be, but I also know how transformative it is. You're in good hands." The briefing continued another 20 minutes. Vance outlined schedules, explained evaluation criteria, answered questions with practiced ease. Then he dismissed the group. Sarah stood to leave. Dr. Cross intercepted her at the door. "Lieutenant Commander Chen? I'm Jennifer Cross. Do you have a moment?" "Of course." Cross led her to a small office, closed the door. Her demeanor shifted slightly, still friendly, but more intimate, conspiratorial. "I wanted to introduce myself personally," Cross said. "Female SEALs are rare." "I imagine you've faced significant challenges throughout your career." "The usual," Sarah said carefully.
Having to prove yourself constantly, being judged by different standards.
Exactly. Cross leaned forward, voice dropping. That's why programs like Iron Phoenix are so valuable. They give women in combat roles tools to handle the unique pressures we face. The psychological burden of being the first, the only, the exception. Sarah let silence hang. The technique Reaper had taught her. Let people fill silence. I'd love for you to participate in our advanced evaluation track, Cross continued. It's designed specifically for experienced operators, more sophisticated scenarios, more personalized feedback. Dr. Vance runs these sessions himself. Very small groups, very focused attention.
What does it involve?
Intensive psychological stress testing. We create scenarios that mirror the isolation, pressure, and decision-making challenges you'd face if captured or compromised during operations. It's not comfortable, I'll be honest about that, but it's the most effective training we offer. Sarah pretended to consider.
How long is each evaluation?
2 to 3 hours. We run them Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 2100 hours. Limited slots because we keep the groups small, 4 to 6 participants maximum.
I'll think about it.
Cross smiled. Take your time. But Sarah, and I hope I can call you Sarah, I really think you'd benefit from this. Someone with your background, your experience, you're exactly the kind of operator who gets the most value from advanced protocols. You've already proven yourself in ways most people can't imagine. This would just give you additional tools.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Wonderful. I'll follow up in a few days. Let you settle in first. Sarah left Building 7, walked back toward the main compound. Her phone buzzed. Text from Reaper. How'd it go? She typed back.
Hook is baited. She'll approach again within 48 hours.
The response was immediate. Good. Stay sharp. They're watching you now. Sarah spent the next 2 days running standard training rotations, CQB drills, marksmanship evaluations, tactical scenario consultations, playing the role, being visible, professional, unremarkable. But she watched, observed patterns, noted which female personnel seemed withdrawn, which avoided Building 7, which had that specific look in their eyes, the one Maya had written about in her journal. The look of someone carrying trauma they couldn't speak. On her 3rd day, Sarah ate lunch in the chow hall. A young sailor sat alone 3 tables away, 19, maybe 20, seaman apprentice by the rank. She pushed food around her tray without eating, stared at nothing, existed in that space where you're present but not really there. Sarah recognized the dissociation. She'd seen it in combat veterans, in assault survivors, in people whose minds had detached from their bodies as a protection mechanism. She walked over.
Mind if I sit?
The young woman looked up, startled, saw Sarah's rank, started to stand.
At ease,
Sarah said.
Just looking for company. Of course, ma'am.
Sarah sat, extended her hand.
Sarah Chen. Seaman Apprentice Lisa Jensen.
The handshake was brief, weak. Jensen pulled her hand back quickly. They ate in silence for a moment. Sarah didn't push, just existed in the same space, creating the possibility of conversation without forcing it. Finally, Jensen spoke.
You're new here. Just arrived. Training rotation. How long? 90 days.
Jensen nodded, went back to not eating.
You okay?
Sarah asked quietly.
Fine.
The lie was transparent. Sarah let it stand for a moment, then tried a different approach.
I lost a friend recently,
Sarah said.
Another SEAL. She was stationed here last year. Maya Torres. Did you know her?
Jensen's hands stopped moving. Her eyes flickered up, then down. Fear, recognition, something breaking through the dissociation. I knew her, Jensen whispered.
She was kind, asked questions, actually listened to the answers. She was good at that. She tried to help. Jensen's voice was barely audible. Tried to make people understand, but no one believed her. Sarah's pulse quickened. Understand what? Jensen looked around the chow hall, checking who was watching, who might hear. Nothing, she said, louder now. I meant she tried to help with training stuff, tactical advice, nothing specific. The shift was immediate, defensive. Someone had taught Jensen to shut down, to protect information, to fear consequences. If you ever want to talk, Sarah said carefully, about training or anything else, I'm in Building 3, Room 217. Jensen stood abruptly. I need to go. Thank you for the company, ma'am. She left her tray, walked away quickly. Sarah watched her go, watched the way she held herself, shoulders hunched, making herself small, trying to disappear. That afternoon, Sarah ran into Riley Blackwood. Literally. She was coming around a corner near the armory. He was heading the opposite direction. 240 pounds of muscle, moving fast, not watching. They collided. Sarah stumbled back. Blackwood caught her arm, steadied her. Apologies, he said. Heavy accent. Russian. Was not paying attention. No harm done. He looked at her more carefully. You are new consultant. Chen, yes? That's right. Riley Blackwood. I work with Dr. Vance, physical training component. Former Marine? His smile was cold. Duh. Former many things. Now I help people find their limits. He released her arm. Dr. Cross mentioned you, said you might participate in advanced evaluations. Considering it? You should. Someone with your background, SEAL, combat veteran, you would be interesting subject. Most participants are soft, break easily. You would be challenge. The way he said it, the hunger in his eyes, not sexual, something colder. The look of someone who enjoyed breaking things. I'll keep that in mind, Sarah said evenly. Do that. He smiled again. Perhaps I see you Thursday night. He walked away. Sarah forced herself to breathe normally, to not react, to stay in character. But every instinct was screaming danger. Blackwood wasn't just muscle. He was a predator who'd found an environment where predation was rewarded. That evening, Sarah met Reaper off base, a parking lot 15 minutes from Fallon, empty except for their 2 vehicles. Jensen is a victim, Sarah said. I'm certain of it. She knew Maya, reacted to her name, then shut down immediately when I asked follow-up questions. Classic trauma response, combined with fear of retaliation. Can you get her to talk? Maybe, but not quickly. She's terrified. Reaper pulled out his tablet, showed her surveillance footage. I've been monitoring Building 7's security cameras. They run evaluations exactly when we thought, Tuesday and Thursday nights, 2100 to 2300 hours. 3 nights ago, 2 female sailors entered. Both looked nervous, but willing. They left 3 hours later. One was crying. The other looked blank, dissociated. Did you get their identities? Seaman Patricia Moore and Petty Officer 3rd Class Amanda Rodriguez. I ran their service records. Both filed stress leave requests the following day. Both have medical appointments scheduled for psychological evaluation. Sarah's jaw tightened. They're still operating, still hurting people. While we build a case, they're creating new victims. Which is why we need you inside, Reaper said. 1 more week of observation, then you go in Thursday. Get the confession. End this. 1 more week means 2 more evaluation cycles, 4 to 6 more victims. Sarah, I know. She cut him off. I know we need ironclad evidence. I know rushing makes mistakes, but every day we wait, someone else gets hurt.
And if you go in unprepared and they make you, then no one gets justice. Not the 31. Not Maya. Not the future victims. You have to be patient. Sarah knew he was right. Hated that he was right.
1 week, she agreed. Then I'm done watching.
The next morning, Dr. Cross found Sarah at the range. Sarah was running drills, precision shooting at distance, working through wind calculations and elevation adjustments. Cross watched for several minutes before approaching.
Impressive, Cross said. I read about your combat record. 3 confirmed kills over 800 meters.
That requires exceptional skill and composure. Sarah cleared her weapon, set it down.
Just training.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Cross moved closer, lowered her voice. I know I mentioned our advanced evaluation program earlier. I wanted to extend a formal invitation. Thursday night, 2100 hours. Dr. Vance is running a session specifically for experienced operators. Small group, just 3 participants. You, 1 other SEAL, and a Marine Special Operations veteran.
Who's the other SEAL?
Cross smiled. Lieutenant Jake Morrison. He's stationed at Coronado, here on temporary assignment. You might know him. Sarah did know Morrison. Solid operator, good reputation. If he was participating, that gave Iron Phoenix credibility.
And the Marine?
Captain Rebecca Walsh, Force Recon. Very impressive service record. 2 legitimate warriors. Cross was using them as social proof, as evidence that Iron Phoenix was professional and valuable.
What would the evaluation involve?
Sarah asked. Scenario-based psychological stress testing. We'll create situations that mirror hostile interrogation, isolation, pressure, decision-making under duress. The goal is to identify your breaking points and develop strategies to push past them. It's intense, but controlled. Dr. Vance has done this hundreds of times. You'll be in expert hands. Sarah pretended to hesitate.
I've been through SEER training, resistance to interrogation protocols. How is this different?
SEER is artificial, Cross said. Everyone knows it ends. The instructors can't actually hurt you, can't actually take anything that matters. Our protocols go deeper. We identify real psychological leverage, what you'd actually protect, what you'd sacrifice, what you'd do if the stakes were genuine. That's what makes our training so effective. There it was, the language of leverage, of finding what mattered and using it against you.
I'll do it,
Sarah said. Cross's smile widened. Excellent. I'll add you to Thursday's roster. Just bring your ID and wear comfortable PT gear. It can get physical. Understood. One more thing. Cross touched Sarah's arm, brief, reassuring. I know this might seem intimidating, but Sarah, every woman who's gone through our program has come out stronger. You're going to do great. I can tell you've got that quality, that toughness. Not everyone has it. Sarah held Cross's eyes, saw genuine warmth there, genuine belief. Cross actually thought she was helping, actually believed the lie she'd been telling herself for 3 years.
Thank you,
Sarah said. Cross left. Sarah waited until she was out of sight, then pulled out her phone. Texted Reaper. I'm in. Thursday, 2100 hours. The response came immediately. Copy. I'll be ready. Remember, 30 minutes max. Sarah looked at the targets downrange. Bullet holes clustered center mass, precise and deadly. In 4 days, she'd walk into Building 7. She'd let them think they had leverage, let them think she was just another victim. And then she'd show them what a Navy SEAL did when people tried to break her. She picked up her rifle, loaded another magazine, started shooting again. Because in 4 days, everything would change. In 4 days, Iron Phoenix would burn. And Sarah would make sure every single person who'd touched Maya, who'd filmed her, who'd sold her, would confess it all on tape before base security put them in handcuffs. 4 days. That's all the predators had left. They just didn't know it yet. The 4 days crawled by. Sarah ran her training rotations, maintained her cover, acted like a consultant who had no idea what Building 7 actually was. But every night she returned to her quarters and read Maya's journal, absorbing every detail her friend had documented. Victim testimonies, observations about how Cross recruited, notes about Cameron Webb's surveillance systems, the patterns Maya had died trying to expose. On Tuesday night, Sarah watched from a distance as 2 young women entered Building 7 at 2100 hours. They looked nervous but willing. Sarah knew that look. She'd worn it herself going into her first combat deployment. The fear, mixed with determination. The need to prove you belonged. They emerged 3 hours later. One was crying silently, methodically, like tears were involuntary and she'd stopped trying to control them. The other walked with that same dissociated blankness Sarah had seen in Jensen. Both got into separate vehicles and left. Neither spoke to each other. Sarah wanted to follow them, to tell them it wasn't their fault, that help was coming. But she couldn't break cover. Not yet. Not when she was 48 hours from ending this. Wednesday afternoon, Reaper met her at the base gym. They worked through a sparring session, communicating in low tones between combinations. "Morrison and Walsh confirmed for tomorrow night," Reaper said, blocking her jab. "I reached out through back channels. Neither knows about the investigation. They think it's legitimate training." "So they're unknowing props," Sarah countered with a cross. "Cross is using them to make me comfortable." "Exactly." Reaper moved inside her guard. "Once you're in that room, Morrison and Walsh become complications. They might defend Vance if things go violent. You need to be prepared for that." "I won't hurt them." "They might hurt you trying to protect what they think is legitimate research." Sarah shifted her stance, threw a knee strike that stopped inches from Reaper's ribs. "Then I'll control them without damage. But I'm not leaving until I have confessions." Reaper grabbed her arm, held it. "Sarah, listen to me. Maya went into that room thinking she could control the situation. She couldn't. They were prepared. They had leverage. They had numbers. Don't make her mistake." "I'm not Maya," Sarah said quietly. "I'm going in wired. I have you monitoring. I have an extraction plan. And I have something Maya didn't have." "What's that?" "Permission to break them." Reaper released her arm. 30 minutes. That's your window. After that, I'm coming through the door regardless of what your beacon says." "Understood." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling while her roommate, a logistics officer who worked normal hours and had no idea what was happening, snored peacefully 3 feet away. Sarah kept seeing Maya's face, kept hearing her voice from that audio recording, kept imagining what her friend had endured in that room, while Sarah was halfway around the world, unreachable. At 0300, Sarah gave up on sleep. She went to the bathroom, stood in the shower letting hot water run over her until her skin turned red. Then she got dressed, went to the base chapel. It was empty, DOS, except for the eternal light burning at the altar. Sarah sat in the back pew. She wasn't particularly religious, but this was where warriors came when they needed to talk to the dead. "I'm going in tomorrow," she said to the silence, to Maya's ghost, to whatever listened when people spoke to those who couldn't answer. "I'm walking into that same room, letting them think they've got me. And then, I'm going to make them confess everything they did to you. Everything they did to 31 others. Everything they were planning to do to hundreds more.
I'm going to get it on tape. I'm going to preserve the evidence. And I'm going to make sure they spend the rest of their lives in prison. The chapel stayed silent. I know you're scared for me, Sarah continued. I know if you were here you'd tell me to be careful, to trust the plan, to not take unnecessary risks. But Maya, they killed you.
They filmed you and blackmailed you, and when you tried to stop them, they murdered you and made it look like suicide. So I'm not being careful. I'm being thorough. There's a difference. She touched the bracelet in her pocket. Turquoise beads, worn smooth. I'm finishing what you started. That's the promise. Thursday arrived with desert heat and crystal clear sky. Sarah went through her normal routine. PT at 0500, breakfast, morning training rotation. She avoided Building 7, avoided Cross, acted like tonight was just another evolution in another deployment. At 1700 hours, Reaper pulled her aside near the armory. Final equipment check, he said, leading her to a storage room that was supposedly off-limits, but he'd secured access to anyway. Strip the uniform. We're sewing in the recorder now. Sarah removed her shirt. Reaper worked quickly, his hands steady despite his age. The cassette recorder went into her right sleeve, positioned so the microphone would capture sound when her arm was at her side. The stitching was invisible, professional. When he finished, Sarah put the shirt back on. Couldn't feel the device at all. Activated 3 times, Reaper said. Make sure you know the pressure required. Sarah pressed the recessed switch. 3-second hold. The LED blinked once. She released, waited 10 seconds, repeated. Blink. Again. Blink. Good. The battery is fresh. 4 hours of recording time. More than you'll need. He handed her the UV capsule. Sarah opened her mouth. Reaper positioned it against her back left molar with dental adhesive. The capsule seated with a small click. Don't crush it unless the situation is unrecoverable, Reaper said. Once you deploy the marker, crime scene techs will find it. Which means you need to be absolutely certain there's going to be a crime scene to process.
There will be.
He gave her the watch, emergency beacon disguised as standard issue. Press and hold 5 seconds. Silent alarm to my phone. I'll be in Fallon's security office monitoring their external cameras. The moment you signal, or the moment 30 minutes expires, I'm coming with base security and NCIS. Sarah strapped on the watch, checked the time. 1900 hours. 2 hours until she walked into Iron Phoenix. I've got Morrison's and Walsh's service records, Reaper continued. Both solid operators, both decorated. If they're in that room when things go sideways, they're going to react on instinct. They'll see Vance as authority, you as aggressor. You need to control them immediately, or they become threats.
I'll handle it.
Sarah, Reaper's voice went hard. I trained you. I know what you're capable of. But you're walking into a room with 4 hostiles and 2 unknowns. Those odds are bad even for a SEAL. Don't let pride make you stupid.
This isn't pride. This is justice.
Justice doesn't matter if you're dead. Then I won't be dead. They stared at each other. Finally, Reaper nodded. 30 minutes. Not a second longer. At 20:45 hours, Sarah walked toward Building 7. She'd changed into PT gear. Black shorts, gray shirt, standard issue. Hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. No jewelry except the watch. She looked like every other service member heading to a training evolution. The building's exterior was dark except for security lights. Sarah badged in. The door clicked open. Inside, the hallway was quiet, empty, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. She followed signs to Evaluation Room 3. The door was steel, heavy, institutional. Sarah stopped outside, put her hand on the cold metal. On the other side was everything she'd come for. All the evidence, all the confession, all the justice Maya had died without receiving. She activated the recorder. 3-second press. The LED blinked once beneath her sleeve. 4 hours of tape, now recording. Sarah opened the door and walked inside. The room was larger than she'd expected. 30 by 30, padded mats on the floor, medical equipment along one wall, camera arrays mounted in corners. Dr. Vance stood in the center with Riley Blackwood beside him. Cameron Webb sat at a desk with his laptop and surveillance monitors. Dr. Cross was there too, clipboard in hand, smiling that warm, genuine smile. And Morrison and Walsh, both in PT gear, both looking slightly uncomfortable, but willing. Morrison nodded at Sarah. Walsh gave a small wave. "Lieutenant Commander Chen," Vance said, extending his hand. "Thank you for volunteering. I think you'll find tonight's evaluation extremely valuable." Sarah shook his hand. Firm grip, confident. The handshake of someone who'd done this hundreds of times and knew exactly how it would end. "Lieutenant Morrison, Captain Walsh, this is Lieutenant Commander Chen," Vance continued. "All of you are experienced operators with exceptional service records. Tonight's protocol is designed specifically for personnel at your level." "What exactly will we be doing?" Morrison asked. "Scenario-based stress evaluation," Vance said. "We'll place you in situations that mirror hostile interrogation, isolation, psychological pressure, decision-making under duress. The goal is to identify your individual breaking points and develop strategies to push past them. It's intense, but it's controlled. You're in expert hands." Walsh shifted her weight. "Is this going to be filmed?" "For analysis purposes only," Webb said from his desk. "Performance review, identifying stress patterns, standard research protocol. The footage is encrypted and stored securely. Only the 4 of us have access." Sarah felt her pulse steady. Webb had just confessed to filming. The recorder was capturing everything. "Let's begin with baseline assessment," Vance said. "I need each of you to sit in the center of the room. We'll start with Lieutenant Morrison." Morrison walked to the center, sat cross-legged on the mat. Vance circled him slowly, professionally. "Tell me about your last combat deployment," Vance said. "Afghanistan, 2023. 8-month rotation, direct action missions against high-value targets." "Did you lose anyone?" Morrison's jaw tightened slightly. "2 teammates. IED strike during exfil." "How did that make you feel?" "Angry. Helpless. Like I should have seen it coming." Vance nodded, making notes. "Good. That's honest. Now close your eyes. I'm going to describe a scenario. I want you to tell me how you'd respond." The evaluation continued. Standard psychological assessment, nothing overtly wrong. Morrison answered questions, described responses, stayed professional. After 15 minutes, Vance thanked him and moved to Walsh. Walsh's assessment was similar. Questions about combat stress, decision-making, fear responses. All of it sounded legitimate. Sarah began to wonder if she'd been wrong, if maybe Iron Phoenix actually was what it claimed to be. Then Vance called her name. "Lieutenant Commander Chen, your turn." Sarah walked to the center of the room, sat down. Vance circled her the same way he'd circled the others, but something in his posture had changed. More focused, more predatory. "You're a SEAL," Vance said. "That's rare, especially for women. Tell me about Bud/S training." 26 weeks. Hell Week, dive phase, land warfare. I graduated with class 289. "And your swim buddy?" Sarah's hands clenched involuntarily. "Petty Officer Maya Torres." The room went completely silent. Morrison and Walsh didn't know the name, but everyone else did. Webb stopped typing. Cross's clipboard lowered. Blackwood smiled. Vance's voice went soft, clinical. Maya Torres. Yes, she came through our program last year. Smart, tough, determined. Tried very hard to resist. Ultimately, unsuccessful. Sarah forced herself to stay still, stay calm, let him talk. I'm sorry for your loss, Vance continued. Suicide is always tragic, especially when it could have been prevented. Could it have been prevented? Sarah asked. If she'd cooperated, if she'd understood that our program exists to help, not harm, if she'd accepted the evaluation process instead of fighting it. Vance moved closer. But she made different choices, and those choices had consequences. Sarah's pulse hammered. The confession was starting. What kind of consequences? Vance gestured to Webb. Cameron, pull up file Torres M 2023. Webb typed. His monitors lit up with video thumbnails. 14 files, all labeled with Maya's name and dates from last year. Morrison stood up. Wait, what is this? I thought we were doing stress evaluation. We are, Vance said calmly. Sit down, Lieutenant. Those files, that's not standard protocol. Blackwood moved, fast for his size. He positioned himself between Morrison and the door. Not aggressive yet, just blocking. Please sit down, Vance repeated. All of you. What happens next requires your full attention and cooperation. Walsh was on her feet too. I don't like this. I'm leaving. No, Vance said. You're not. Blackwood's hand went to his belt. Not a weapon, they wouldn't be that stupid, but something else. Taser maybe, chemical spray. Sarah's mind calculated angles, distances, threat assessments. Morrison and Walsh were confused but not hostile. Webb was non-combatant. Blackwood was the immediate danger. Vance was command and control. Cross was wild card. Sit down, Vance said again, voice harder now. Or this becomes significantly more unpleasant for everyone. Morrison and Walsh sat. They were operators, trained to assess situations and respond appropriately. They'd identified Blackwood as threat, Vance as authority, and compliance as the tactically smart move, until they understood what was happening. Sarah sat too. Let them think she was complying. Vance smiled. Better. Now, as I was saying, we run a specialized program here, Enhanced Tactical Stress Evaluation. What that actually means is we identify leverage points, psychological, personal, professional, and we document them. Then we use that documentation to ensure ongoing cooperation and operational security. You're blackmailing people, Walsh said flatly. We're creating mutually beneficial insurance arrangements, Vance corrected. You participate in our evaluation. We film it. The footage stays private as long as you maintain confidentiality about our methods. Everyone gets what they need. We continue our research. You continue your careers. Simple. That's not research, Morrison said. That's coercion. Call it what you want. The outcome is the same. Vance gestured to Webb again. Show them their surveillance files. Webb pulled up new screens, split images. Sarah in her quarters changing clothes. Morrison in the shower. Walsh sleeping. All of them filmed without knowledge or consent over the past week. We monitor everyone in our program, Vance said. Security purposes, making sure we know who we're working with. Your personal files are already substantial. If you cooperate tonight, they stay private. If you don't, he smiled. Well, the internet is forever.
Foreign intelligence services pay very well for compromising material on U.S. military personnel. Sarah felt the rage building but kept it contained. Let him talk. Let him confess. The recorder was capturing everything. "How many people have you done this to?" Sarah asked. Vance looked pleased by the question. 31 confirmed participants over 18 months. Plus tonight's 3 makes 34. We're approaching our funding target.
Another 6 months, and we'll have enough to retire the program and move on to other ventures. What ventures? Morrison asked. International consulting, defense contracting. The private sector pays significantly better than DoD research grants. But we needed seed capital. That's what Iron Phoenix provides. Webb spoke up from his desk. We've made $1.2 million so far. Buyers include Chinese MSS, Russian FSB, Iranian intelligence, plus 8 domestic clients. Average price is $10,000 per file. High-value targets go for $50,000. Sarah's voice was steady. What makes a target high value? Rank, clearance level, operational experience, Vance listed. SEALs are premium content. Female SEALs even more so. Your file would sell for $75,000 minimum, possibly 6 figures if we market it properly to the right buyers. Morrison lunged. Vance hadn't expected it. Morrison was across the mat before Blackwood could react, had Vance by the throat, slammed him against the wall. You're selling classified personnel to foreign governments. Blackwood moved. He caught Morrison from behind, wrist lock, leverage. Morrison gasped in pain. Blackwood twisted harder. Something popped. Morrison screamed. Walsh jumped in. She went for Blackwood's eyes, fingers hooked. He released Morrison, blocked her strike, countered with an elbow to her temple. Walsh dropped. Sarah stayed sitting, watched it unfold. Morrison was on the ground, cradling his wrist, dislocated or broken. Walsh was unconscious, or close to it. Blackwood stood over both of them, breathing hard. That, Vance said, straightening his shirt, was unnecessary. Cameron, secure them. Webb pulled zip ties from a drawer. He bound Morrison's hands behind his back, then Walsh's. Both were conscious but controlled. Vance turned to Sarah. You didn't help them. Interesting. Why? Because I wanted to see how far you'd go, Sarah said. I wanted to hear you confess. And you did. 31 victims, 1.2 million in sales, foreign intelligence buyers. Everything. Vance's expression shifted. Confusion, then understanding, then rage. You're wired, he said. Yes. Cameron, find it. Webb approached. Sarah didn't resist. Let him pat her down, check her pockets, run his hands over her uniform. He found nothing. The recorder was too well hidden, too professionally integrated. She's clean, Webb said. No, she's not. Vance's eyes narrowed. Cross, when did she approach you about joining the program? 6 days ago, Cross said quietly. And who recommended her? Cross went pale. No one. I identified her as a target based on her profile. Then how did she know to get wired? How did she know to ask exactly the right questions to get me to confess methodology? Vance walked closer to Sarah. Who sent you? NCIS, Sarah said calmly. Special Agent James Mitchell. I'm Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, and I've been investigating Iron Phoenix for 6 weeks. Everything you've said tonight is on tape. Analog recording, unhackable, already transmitted to my handler. Base security is en route. You're under arrest. Vance smiled. Actually smiled. No, we're not. Because you made a critical mistake. He gestured to Webb. Show her. Webb pulled up new footage. Reaper in Fallon's security office, watching monitors. And behind him,
2 MPs entering, tasers drawn. Sarah's stomach dropped. "Your handler is Master Chief Daniel Cross," Vance said. "Retired SEAL, civilian contractor, predictable old man, using Cold War tactics in a digital age. We've been monitoring him since he started investigating us 6 months ago. We knew he'd recruited you. We knew you were undercover. We've been feeding you exactly what you wanted to hear." "You're lying." "Cameron, kill the connection," Webb typed.
The monitors showing Reaper went dark. "Your handler is in custody," Vance said. "Your extraction plan is compromised. Your recording will never reach NCIS because you're never leaving this room. And now," he smiled wider, "now we're going to make you our highest value asset yet." Sarah calculated her options. Morrison and Walsh were bound, compromised. Blackwood was between her and the door. Webb was non-combatant. Vance was command. Cross was still a wild card. 30 minutes. That's what she'd promised Reaper. Had it been 30 minutes? She couldn't check the watch without signaling. Couldn't signal if they were monitoring it. She was alone. Surrounded. Exactly where Maya had been. But Sarah wasn't Maya. She smiled back at Vance. "You made a mistake too." "What's that?" "You told me everything I needed." Sarah stood slowly. "And you forgot. I'm a Navy SEAL." Then she moved. Sarah closed the distance to Blackwood in 3 steps. He was reaching for the taser on his belt when her palm strike caught him in the throat. Not hard enough to crush his larynx, but hard enough to make him forget about the weapon. His hands flew to his neck, gasping. She didn't wait, swept his legs, used his momentum to drive him face first into the mat. He was 240 of muscle, but she had leverage and speed and the element of surprise. She wrenched his arm behind his back, hyperextended the shoulder joint until something popped. Blackwood screamed. Vance was moving now, reaching for something on the equipment table. Sarah crossed the room, caught his wrist mid-reach. Chemical spray. She twisted, applied pressure to the nerve cluster. He dropped the canister. "Don't," Sarah said quietly. Webb was at his laptop, fingers flying across keys, deleting files, destroying evidence. Sarah released Vance, went for Webb. He looked up, saw her coming, tried to close the laptop. She grabbed his hand, bent his fingers back until he cried out. The laptop stayed open. "Airplane mode," Sarah said. "Now." "I can't. The files are uploading." She increased pressure. His index finger bent at an angle fingers shouldn't bend. "Airplane mode or I break every finger and you type with your nose." Webb fumbled with the trackpad. 2 clicks. The upload stopped. Connection severed. Sarah released him, shoved him toward the wall. "Sit. Hands visible. Move again, and you lose the hand entirely." Cross was frozen near the door. Not moving, not helping, just standing there with her clipboard like she couldn't process what was happening. Morrison spoke from the floor, voice tight with pain. "Chen, untie us. We can help." "Stay down," Sarah said. "This isn't over." Blackwood was getting up, cradling his dislocated shoulder. His face was purple with rage and oxygen deprivation. He came at her again, using his size and reach, trying to grab, to control, to use the wrestling tactics that worked on people who didn't know how to fight a bigger opponent. Sarah went low, under his guard, knee to his solar plexus, all her weight, all her force. The air left his lungs in a rush. She followed with an elbow to the base of his skull, not the temple. She didn't want to kill him, just incapacitate. Blackwood went down hard, stayed down. Vance was backing toward the door now. "You can't win this, even if you beat all of us, even if you have that recording.
It doesn't matter. We have copies. We have buyers. The network is bigger than you know.
Then tell me how big, Sarah said.
What? You said the network is bigger than I know. How big? Who else is involved?
Sarah pulled out her phone, set it to record video, aimed it at Vance's face.
Say it again. For the camera.
Vance's expression shifted. Understanding. Horror. She was documenting everything. Multiple recordings. Redundant evidence. "You're not getting out of here," Vance said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "I don't need to get out. I just need this footage to exist. Cloud backup, automatic upload. Even if you kill me right now, the evidence is already out there." She was bluffing. The phone wasn't uploading anything. But Vance didn't know that. "Who else is involved?" Sarah repeated. "Is it just the four of you? Or does this go higher?" Vance's jaw worked. He was calculating, trying to find an angle, a way to regain control. Cross spoke. Her voice was small, broken. "It goes higher. Base security chief. 2 officers in Fallon's command structure. They've been protecting the operation, making complaints disappear, rotating patrol schedules to give us windows." "Jennifer, shut up," Vance started. "No." Cross's voice got stronger. "I'm done. I've been done for 3 years, but I was too scared to stop. But Sarah's right. The recording exists." "The evidence exists. It's over, Marcus. It's been over since the moment she walked through that door." Vance turned on her. "You brought her here. You recruited her. You made this possible. You think you get to play victim now?" "I am a victim," Cross said. "I was 19 when you filmed me. 20 when you made me recruit others. Every woman I brought here, every life we destroyed. I was a victim being forced to create more victims. That's what you do. That's what this whole operation is. Trauma, creating trauma, until someone finally has the courage to end it." Sarah kept the phone steady on Vance's face. "Is she right? Is that what this is?" Vance's mask slipped. The professional psychologist, the charismatic researcher, the trustworthy authority figure, all of it fell away. What was left was cold, calculating, utterly devoid of empathy. "Of course that's what it is," he said. "You think I care about stress inoculation research? About helping female operators? This is about money, about leverage, about building assets that foreign intelligence services pay premium prices for. Cross was my first recruit 3 years ago. Once I had her on film, I had someone who could bring in others without raising suspicion. Female psychologist, sympathetic, trustworthy. Perfect recruitment tool." "How many total?" Sarah asked. 63, Webb said from the wall. His voice was hollow. "Not 31. That's just this location. We've been running similar operations at 3 other bases. Total of 63 victims over 4 years. Sarah's hand trembled. 63. Not 31. Double the victims NCIS knew about. "What other bases?" she demanded. "Miramar, Little Creek, Naval Station Norfolk," Webb listed. Same structure. Civilian contractor, psychological research cover, systematic blackmail and exploitation. We've sold to 7 different foreign intelligence services, 12 private buyers, and... He stopped. "And what?" Webb looked at Vance. "Tell her. It's over anyway. Tell her about the Pentagon." "Cameron, tell her!" Vance was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. That same cold smile. "We have 3 clients inside Pentagon Acquisition. Senior analysts with TS/SCI clearance. They buy our material not for intelligence purposes, but for personal use. They pay double because they need absolute discretion. One of them sits on Congressional Armed Services Committee staff. If we go down, we're taking him with us. Sarah felt sick. The network went all the way to Washington, to the people who were supposed to provide oversight, who were supposed to protect service members. "Names," she said. "No." Sarah moved toward him. "Names, now!" "You're not going to hurt me," Vance said. "You're a federal agent. You operate within rules. That's your weakness. Mine is, I don't have any." He pulled something from his pocket. Small, metallic. Sarah's mind registered it half a second too late. Scalpel. Vance lunged at Cross. "You want to play victim? I'll give you permanent victim status." Sarah caught his wrist mid-strike. The blade stopped 2 inches from Cross's throat. Vance was strong, former Special Forces. He'd stayed in shape. But Sarah had been in combat, had fought for her life in rooms darker and smaller than this, against enemies more dangerous. She twisted his wrist, felt the bones grind. He tried to maintain his grip. She applied more pressure. The scalpel fell. Then she hit him. Not a combat strike, a rage strike. All the fury she'd been containing for 6 weeks, for Maya, for 63 victims, for a system so broken it let predators operate with impunity. All of it channeled into her fist, connecting with his jaw. Vance went down. Sarah stood over him, breathing hard. "You said I operate within rules. You're wrong. Maya was my friend. She was my sister. And you filmed her, and blackmailed her, and when she tried to stop you, you killed her." "We didn't kill her," Vance said through blood. "She killed herself. Weak little." Sarah kicked him in the ribs, heard something crack. Don't say another word about her." Morrison spoke from the floor. "Chen, whatever he did, whatever they all did, you can't kill him. You need him alive to testify." Sarah looked at Morrison, saw the fear in his eyes. Not fear of Vance, fear of her, fear of what she might do. She stepped back, forced herself to breathe, to think tactically instead of emotionally. "You're right," she said. She pulled zip ties from the equipment table, the same ones Webb had used on Morrison and Walsh, secured Vance's hands behind his back, did the same to Blackwood, who was conscious but barely, then Webb. "Cross," Sarah said. "Are you with them or against them?" Cross's hands were shaking. "Against. I've been against them for 3 years, but I didn't know how to stop, didn't know who to tell. Every time I thought about reporting, I remembered they had my footage, that they'd release it if I talked, that my family would see, that everyone would know. I need to know right now. Are you going to help me, or do I zip tie you too?" "I'll help. Whatever you need. Whatever it takes to end this." Sarah handed her the scalpel Vance had dropped. "Cut Morrison and Walsh loose." Cross moved quickly, her hands steadier now that she had purpose. She freed Morrison first, then Walsh. Both rubbed their wrists, assessed their injuries. Morrison's wrist was badly swollen, possibly broken. Walsh had a knot on her temple from Blackwood's elbow, but she was alert. "Someone want to explain what the hell is actually happening?" Walsh demanded. "NCIS investigation," Sarah said. "I'm undercover. This facility isn't research. It's a blackmail operation." They've been filming service members and selling the footage to foreign intelligence. 63 victims across 4 bases over 4 years. Morrison looked at the 3 bound men. "And you just took down the entire network by yourself." "Not yet. I still need the evidence secured." Sarah turned to Webb. "Your laptop. Where are the files stored?" "Local server in the back office," Webb said. "Encrypted. Password protected." "Give me the password." "I can't. If I cooperate, they'll kill me.
They're zip-tied on the floor, Sarah said. I'm a Navy SEAL with a recording of your confession. Your choice is simple. Give me access to the files and cooperate, or obstruct justice and add another federal charge. What's it going to be?
Webb gave her the password. Sarah went to the back office, found the server rack, logged in with Webb's credentials. The system opened. Folders upon folders, each labeled with a name, rank, and date. She found Maya's folder, 18 files, dated across 9 months. Sarah's hand hovered over the mouse. She wanted to delete them, to erase the evidence of her friend's suffering. But she couldn't. This was evidence. This would convict them. Instead, she copied everything, the entire server, every folder, every file, every transaction record, connected her phone, initiated backup upload. The files were massive, 427 gigabytes. Upload would take hours. But she didn't have hours. Sarah checked her watch. 38 minutes since she'd entered the building, 8 minutes past Reaper's deadline. If he was really in custody, like Vance claimed, then no extraction was coming. If Vance had lied. The door burst open. Reaper came through first. Not in custody. Not captured. Very much armed and very much operational. Behind him, 4 NCIS agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn. Special Agent Mitchell was with them. "Clear!" Reaper shouted, scanning the room. His eyes found Sarah, found the 3 bound men, found Morrison and Walsh and Cross standing off to the side. "Jen, you good?"
I'm good, Sarah said. We've got them. All of them. And confession on tape.
Mitchell lowered his weapon, looked at the scene. Jesus Christ. What happened to waiting for extraction?
They made a move. I responded.
Reaper crossed to her, grabbed her shoulders, looked her over for injuries. You're not hurt?
I'm fine, but Reaper, they said you were in custody. Showed me footage.
Deep fake, Reaper said. Webb's good with video manipulation. They've been feeding us false intelligence for weeks, trying to make us think they were 1 step ahead. But we were 2 steps ahead. Mitchell had FBI cyber monitoring their systems. The moment they tried to delete files, it triggered our warrants. Sarah felt her knees go weak.
So the evidence is safe?
Every bite, Mitchell said. He gestured to the NCIS techs. Secure that server. I want full forensic extraction. Chain of custody documented at every step. The techs moved in, professional and efficient. Mitchell turned to Vance. Dr. Marcus Vance, you're under arrest for conspiracy, sexual assault, production and distribution of classified material, espionage, and about 15 other federal charges I'm going to enjoy reading to you. Riley Blackwood, Cameron Webb, same charges. Dr. Jennifer Cross. He paused, looked at Sarah.
She cooperated, Sarah said. Gave evidence, helped secure the suspects.
Mitchell nodded. We'll sort her status later. For now, she's a witness. Morrison spoke up. What about us? Walsh and I walked into this thinking it was legitimate training. You're victims, Mitchell said. Same as the other 63. We'll need your statements, but you're not facing charges. You were targeted, manipulated, filmed without consent. That's on them, not you. Walsh looked at the camera arrays, at Webb's monitors still showing surveillance footage. You have footage of us. In our quarters, in the shower. Private moments. We'll delete it, Mitchell said, after we use it as evidence to prosecute these men. But it won't be released, won't be public. You have my word. Your word, Walsh repeated bitterly. Great, because that fixes everything. Sarah understood her anger, understood that no amount of prosecution would erase what had been taken. But it was something. It was justice, even if it wasn't healing. Reaper's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. Mitchell, we've got a problem. What? Fallon's base security chief just left his quarters, heading for the armory. He's been tipped off. Mitchell swore. That's our inside man, the one protecting the operation. He keyed his radio. All units, priority alert. Colonel Raymond Nash is a suspect. Apprehend on sight. Sarah felt the pieces clicking together. Nash. He's the one who made the complaints disappear. The one who rotated patrol schedules. And he's the one with access to base weapons, Reaper said. If he gets to the armory before we lock it down. Gunfire erupted outside. Automatic weapon fire, close and loud. The NCIS agents dropped to defensive positions. Mitchell grabbed his radio. Shots fired. Building 7, north perimeter. All units converge. Suspect is armed and dangerous. The door exploded inward. Nash came through in full tactical gear, M4 carbine raised. He fired 3 rounds into the ceiling. Everyone dove for cover. Nobody moves! Nash shouted. Vance, Webb, Blackwood, we're leaving. Now! He started toward the bound men. Sarah moved without thinking, crossed the distance, hit him from the side. The carbine discharged, rounds punching through the wall. They went down together, fighting for the weapon. Nash was bigger, stronger, former infantry with combat experience. But Sarah had surprise and leverage. She got her hand on the barrel, forced it down, drove her knee into his solar plexus. He gasped, lost his grip. The carbine clattered away. Reaper grabbed it, trained it on Nash. Don't move. Nash's hand went to his sidearm. Sarah caught his wrist, applied a joint lock that made him scream. The pistol fell. She kicked it away, wrenched his arm behind his back, forced him face down on the mat. Colonel Raymond Nash, Mitchell said, walking over. Add fleeing arrest, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted murder of federal agents to your charges. Nash spat blood. You have no idea what you're interfering with. This operation has protected American interests by selling blackmail material to Chinese intelligence, Sarah said. By destroying the lives of 63 service members? That's protecting American interests? They were weak, couldn't handle the pressure. Natural selection. Sarah wanted to break his arm. 20 to make him feel a fraction of what Maya had felt. But she didn't, because Morrison was right. They needed him alive to testify. She zip-tied his hands, stepped back, let the NCIS agents take custody. Mitchell surveyed the room. 4 suspects secured, evidence preserved, the network exposed. Chen, he said quietly, you got them. You got all of them. Sarah's legs finally gave out. She sat on the floor, back against the wall, hands shaking with adrenaline dump. Is it over? The arrests are over. The prosecutions are just beginning. Reaper sat beside her, handed her a bottle of water. You did good, kid. Maya would be proud. Sarah thought about her friend, about the journal entries, about the initials carved in the bathroom stall, about the bracelet she still carried in her pocket. She deserved better than this, Sarah said. Yeah, she did. But because of her investigation and your operation, 63 others get justice. That counts for something. It did count. Sarah knew that intellectually, but emotionally, all she felt was tired. The NCIS techs finished copying the server. Mitchell's phone was ringing constantly. Pentagon brass, FBI coordination, media containment. The story was spreading already. Morrison and Walsh were being treated by medics. Cross sat alone, crying quietly, years of guilt and fear finally breaking through. And Vance, Blackwood, Webb, and Nash, all 4 zip-tied, all 4 facing life in prison for treason, espionage, sexual assault, and murder. Because Mitchell had confirmed it, Maya's death wasn't suicide. Webb had confessed during his initial interrogation. They'd forced pills down her throat, staged the hanging, deleted the evidence of struggle. Murder disguised as suicide because she'd gotten too close to exposing them. Sarah stood, walked over to Vance, looked down at the man who'd killed her friend. "Maya left evidence you couldn't destroy," she said. "Her journal, her victim testimony,
Her notes about server locations. She built the case you're going to be convicted on. So when you're in prison for the next 50 years, remember, a woman you thought was weak enough to kill actually beat you. She just did it from the grave." Vance said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Sarah walked outside into the Nevada night. The desert air was cold, clean. After the blood and sweat and violence of Building 7, it felt like absolution. Reaper found her standing alone. "You ready to write your after-action report?" "Not tonight." "Fair enough." He was quiet for a moment. "You know this doesn't end here. The trials will take years. The victims will need support. The network goes deeper than we know." "I know." "Mitchell's already talking about forming a specialized unit, military sexual trauma investigations. He wants you to run it." Sarah looked back at Building 7, at the place where Maya had died, at the room where 63 lives had been damaged. "I'll do it," she said. "Whatever it takes to make sure this never happens again." "Then let's get to work." They walked back toward the command post together. Behind them, NCIS agents processed the crime scene. Ahead, the long fight for justice was just beginning. But tonight, in this moment, the predators were in custody. The evidence was secure, and Maya Torres, who'd died trying to stop them, had finally won. The forensic analysis took 11 days. NCIS cybercrimes worked around the clock, extracting data from Webb's servers, tracking Bitcoin transactions, identifying buyers. What they found was worse than anyone had anticipated. Mitchell called Sarah into his office at NCIS headquarters in San Diego. Reaper was already there, along with FBI Special Agent Victoria Rodriguez, who'd been coordinating the multi-agency investigation. 427 gigabytes, Mitchell said, sliding the report across his desk. 63 victim folders, but the transaction records show they sold to 19 different buyers, not 7. We've been tracking Bitcoin wallets across 8 countries. "Who are the additional buyers?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez answered. 3 are Pentagon contractors with security clearances. 1 is a congressional staffer, senior aide to a member of the Armed Services Committee. 2 are State Department officials. The rest are foreign intelligence services we already knew about. Sarah felt her stomach turn. So the network went all the way to Washington. "Higher than Washington," Mitchell said. "One of the Pentagon buyers has been forwarding material to a general officer. We don't have confirmation yet, but FBI is executing warrants this morning." Reaper swore under his breath. A general. They had a flag officer in their pocket. "Not anymore," Rodriguez said. "He'll be arrested before noon, along with the congressional staffer and both State Department officials. This is going to be the biggest military corruption scandal since Tailhook." Sarah thought about Maya, about how she'd tried to report, how her complaints had disappeared, how no one believed her because the network was protected at the highest levels. "What about the victims?" Sarah asked. 63 women who were told reporting would end their careers. How do we make this right for them? Mitchell pulled out another folder. "We're contacting all of them, offering full victim advocacy, counseling, legal representation if they want to testify. Some will participate. Others can't face it. We're not forcing anyone. I want to talk to them, Sarah said. The ones who are willing. They deserve to hear from someone who understands what their evidence accomplished.
I was hoping you'd say that, Mitchell replied. We've arranged a meeting. 26 of the 63 have agreed to attend. It's tomorrow, Naval Base San Diego. The chapel at Naval Base San Diego held 200 people. 26 women showed up, ages 19 to 29, every branch represented. Some came in uniform, some in civilian clothes, all of them carrying the weight of what had been done to them. Sarah stood at the front. No podium, no formal presentation, just her in dress whites, standing where they could see the person who'd walked into Iron Phoenix and come out with the evidence they couldn't get.
My name is Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, she began. 3 months ago, my best friend, Petty Officer Maya Torres, was murdered by the same network that victimized all of you. She'd been investigating Iron Phoenix for 9 months, collecting testimonies, documenting patterns, building a case. They killed her because she got too close to exposing them.
The room was silent. Several women were already crying.
Maya left evidence behind, Sarah continued. Her journal, her notes, her victim testimonies.
That evidence became the foundation of the NCIS investigation. Without her work, without the courage of everyone in this room who reported despite being told no one would believe you, we never would have stopped them. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. Seaman apprentice Lisa Jensen, the one Sarah had met in the chow hall at Fallon.
What happens to the footage?
Jensen asked, voice trembling.
The files they made, the things they filmed. Does it get deleted, or does it become evidence that everyone sees?
It becomes evidence, Sarah said honestly. But it's sealed. Court-martialed proceedings are classified when they involve national security and victim protection. The footage will be shown to the jury, to the judge, to the attorneys who need to see it to prosecute. But it won't be public. Won't be released to media. Won't be searchable online. After the trials, it gets sealed under federal protection.
What if someone leaks it anyway? Another woman asked.
Then they're committing additional federal crimes. Witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, distribution of classified material. We've got FBI monitoring for any leaks. If it happens, we prosecute. A Marine captain spoke up from the back. Why should we trust the system now? The system is what failed us in the first place. Our complaints disappeared. Our reports were buried. People at the Pentagon were buying our footage. Why should we believe this time is different? Sarah didn't have a good answer. Couldn't make promises the system might not keep.
Because this time, you're not alone, she said finally. This time, there are federal agents, FBI counterintelligence, congressional oversight, media attention. This time, the predators don't get to operate in silence, and this time...
She paused, made sure everyone was listening.
This time, I'm forming a unit specifically to hunt operations like Iron Phoenix. NCIS, Military Sexual Trauma Investigations.
Dedicated team with authority to investigate across all branches, all installations, all command structures. We're not going away. We're not stopping. And I'm recruiting. The room shifted. Something changed in the air. Recruiting for what? Jensen asked. Investigators, advocates, consultants. The best people to stop sexual assault networks are the ones who survived them. You know the tactics. You know the warning signs. You know what victims need because you've been there. If any of you want to transform what happened to you into something that protects others, I'm offering that opportunity. A staff sergeant stood. I'm in. Whatever you need. I want to make sure no one else goes through what we did. Me too, Jensen said. Same here, the Marine captain added. One by one, women stood. By the time Sarah finished counting, 14 of the 26 had volunteered. "We'll start with training," Sarah said. "Investigative techniques, evidence preservation, victim advocacy protocols. It's not easy work. You'll be confronting trauma, yours and others. But if you're willing, we'll give you the tools to fight back." After the meeting, Morrison approached. His wrist was in a cast, still healing from where Blackwood had broken it. "Jen, I wanted to apologize," he said. "In that room, when things went sideways, I should have trusted you faster, should have recognized what was happening sooner." "You were a victim too," Sarah replied. "You walked in thinking it was legitimate training. They manipulated all of us." "Yeah, but you saw through it. You came prepared. He stopped, struggling with the words. "I keep thinking about what would have happened if you weren't there. If it had just been me and Walsh. We'd be in their archive now. Another 2 victims added to the count." "But you're not, and the archive is in federal custody where it can't hurt anyone else." Morrison nodded. "Walsh wanted me to tell you something. She's not ready to talk to you directly yet, but she wanted you to know. What you did in that room, fighting back when the rest of us were paralyzed, that's the only reason any of us got out. So thank you." Sarah shook his hand. "Take care of yourself. And if either of you ever needs anything, you know how to reach me." The court-martial of Dr. Marcus Vance began 6 weeks later. Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Neutral ground, away from Fallon, away from the contaminated command structure. The prosecution was led by Lieutenant Colonel Elizabeth Warren, 30 years military law, undefeated record in sexual assault cases. She'd prepared the case with surgical precision. Sarah was the primary witness. She took the stand in dress blues, service ribbons including the Navy Cross, combat action ribbon, expert marksmanship qualification. The uniform told the story before she spoke. Warren walked her through it. The NCIS briefing, Maya's death, the undercover operation, the recording, the confession, the violence. Every detail documented, time-stamped, corroborated by physical evidence. The defense attorney was Marcus Stone, expensive, connected, former JAG officer himself. He tried to create reasonable doubt. "Lieutenant Commander Chen, you entered that facility with premeditated intent to gather evidence. You were wired. You had backup standing by. Isn't it possible you provoked Dr. Vance into making statements he wouldn't have made otherwise?" "No," Sarah said calmly. "I asked questions. He chose to answer. He chose to describe his methodology, his victim count, his financial transactions, his buyers. Nobody forced him to confess." "But you were undercover, deceptive by nature. How do we know your testimony is reliable?" "Because I have it on tape. 14 minutes of analog recording, unhackable, unedited. The jury can hear Dr. Vance's own words describing exactly what Iron Phoenix was and what he did to 63 women." Warren played the recording. The courtroom listened in silence. Vance's voice, clinical and cold, explaining leverage and blackmail and systematic exploitation like he was describing a research methodology. When it finished, several jury members were visibly shaken. The defense tried another angle. "You assaulted Dr. Vance. You broke his ribs. You caused permanent injury to Mr. Blackwood's shoulder. You disabled Colonel Nash with extreme force. Isn't it true you were operating with excessive violence motivated by revenge for your friend's death?" "I was defending myself and preserving evidence," Sarah said. "Dr. Vance attacked Dr. Cross with a scalpel. Riley Blackwood assaulted Lieutenant Morrison and Captain Walsh. Colonel Nash came through the door firing an automatic weapon. My response was proportional to the threat." "Proportional? You're a Navy SEAL trained in lethal force, and I didn't kill anyone," Sarah interrupted. "I could have. I was trained to.
but I controlled my response because I wanted them alive to face justice. If I'd wanted revenge, they'd be dead. Instead, they're here, on trial, exactly where they belong." Stone sat down. No further questions. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Victim after victim testified. Seaman Jensen described being recruited by Dr. Cross, being told the evaluation was normal, being shown surveillance footage of herself and told cooperation was the only way to keep it private. Her testimony was devastating. Morrison and Walsh testified about the night Sarah went undercover, about watching the operation reveal itself, about being bound and helpless, about understanding too late what Iron Phoenix actually was. Webb testified as part of his plea agreement. He detailed the server architecture, the Bitcoin transactions, the buyer network,
Named names, provided documentation, gave federal prosecutors everything they needed to pursue the Pentagon officials and congressional staffer. Dr. Cross testified last. She was the prosecution's most complicated witness, both victim and perpetrator, both exploited and exploiter.
"I was 19 when Dr. Vance filmed me,"
she said, voice breaking.
"I trusted him, thought he was helping me develop resilience. By the time I understood what was happening, he had footage. He said if I recruited others, he'd delete mine. I believed him. I brought 22 women to Iron Phoenix, 22 lives I helped destroy because I was too scared to fight back."
Warren asked the critical question. "Why did you finally cooperate with investigators?" Cross looked at Sarah in the gallery.
"Because Lieutenant Commander Chen showed me it was possible to fight back. Because she walked into that room knowing what would happen and brought evidence instead of fear.
Because I realized collaboration didn't protect me, it just created more victims. The only way to end the cycle was to break it, even if that meant facing consequences for what I'd done." The jury deliberated 8 hours. Guilty. All charges. Dr. Marcus Vance. 63 counts of sexual assault, conspiracy, production and distribution of classified material, espionage, murder in the first degree for Maya Torres's death. Sentenced to life without parole. Federal supermax in Florence, Colorado. Riley Blackwood. Same charges plus foreign agent activity. Life without parole. Same facility. Cameron Webb. 45 years with his cooperation agreement. Military prison at Fort Leavenworth. Colonel Raymond Nash. 50 years for conspiracy, obstruction, attempted murder of federal agents. Dr. Jennifer Cross. 18 years. She'd served 12 with good behavior, then mandatory psychological treatment and lifetime parole. Sarah attended every sentencing, watched each of them learn they'd spend the rest of their lives in prison. Felt no satisfaction, just exhaustion and the knowledge that 63 women would have to rebuild their lives from the wreckage these people had created. The congressional staffer got 30 years. Both State Department officials got 25 each. The Pentagon contractors lost their clearances and faced separate federal trials. And the general, Major General Robert Klein, 31 years of service, decorated combat veteran, member of Joint Chiefs Advisory Committee. He got life. The highest-ranking military officer ever convicted of conspiracy in sexual assault network. The trial was classified, but the verdict was public. The shockwave went through the entire Department of Defense. Sarah returned to Fort Rosecrans 6 months after Iron Phoenix's dismantling. She'd been promoted to commander, given authority to build her unit, provided resources and personnel, and backing from Pentagon leadership, desperate to prove they took accountability seriously. She knelt at Maya's grave. The marble was warm from California sun.
"They're all in prison," Sarah said quietly. "Vance, Blackwood, Webb, Nash, Cross. All 19 buyers. Everyone who touched you. Life sentences. They'll die in cages. And Maya, 63 women get to rebuild their lives because you started the investigation. Your journal, your notes, your evidence. That's what convicted them."
She placed 3 items on the headstone. First, the trial verdict. United States versus Vance. Guilty. Life without parole. Second, a photo of the 14 survivors who'd joined Sarah's unit, standing together, transformed from victims to warriors. Third, Maya's bracelet. Turquoise beads on leather cord, worn now, the leather cracking, but intact.
"I'm running the unit now,"
Sarah continued. Military sexual trauma investigations. 18 personnel, 6 of them survivors. We've opened 23 cases across 11 installations. We are hunting every network like Iron Phoenix, making sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. The wind moved through the cypress trees. Your legacy isn't the footage they made. It's not the pain they caused. Your legacy is that you left evidence. You did everything right. The system failed you, but I fixed the system. And now everyone who comes after gets what you deserved: justice, protection, and people who believe them. Reaper found her there an hour later. "New case just came in," he said. "Naval Station Norfolk, anonymous report. Female sailors, contractor-run training, missing complaint files. Same pattern." Sarah stood, brushed grass from her uniform. "Then we go to Norfolk. Same playbook." "How many you think there are?"
"Dozens, maybe hundreds. This pattern isn't unique."
Anywhere there's power without oversight, predators operate. But we're going to find them all. Document everything. Prosecute everyone. They walked back toward the parking lot. Behind them, Maya rested in Section 47 with the other warriors who'd served. Ahead, the mission continued. Sarah's phone buzzed. Text from Jensen, now enrolled in NCIS Training Academy. "Just passed my first investigative practicals. When do I get my first case?" Sarah typed back,
"Soon. We've got work to do."
3 years later, the unit had grown to 32 personnel. Headquarters in San Diego, field teams deployed to 19 installations, 74 investigations opened, 68 prosecutions, 412 victims supported, 27 organized networks dismantled. Iron Phoenix had become case law. The precedent that proved systematic assault could be prosecuted at the highest levels. That silence wasn't inevitable. That evidence could dismantle networks no matter how protected they thought they were. Sarah had been promoted to captain at 31, the youngest in NCIS history for SVU command. Pentagon wanted her doing policy work. She declined, stayed operational, stayed hunting. Because predators never stopped. But neither did hunters. Neither did evidence. Neither did justice when people cared enough to fight for it. Maya's voice, once silenced, echoed in every investigation, every prosecution, every survivor who transformed into advocate. Her death had been murder, but her evidence had become a weapon that destroyed the people who'd killed her and protected hundreds they would have hurt. Sarah stood in her office, looking at the memorial wall. Photos of Maya, of the 63 survivors, of the 412 they'd protected since. Names of predators now in prison. Cases closed. Justice served. Her phone rang. Mitchell's number. "Chen, we've got another one. Marine Corps Base Quantico. Contractor operation. Psychological research cover. Complaints disappearing. You ready?" Sarah grabbed her go bag. "Always ready." "Good, because this one goes deeper. We're tracking connections to private military contractors, to defense industry executives. This might be bigger than Iron Phoenix.
Then we'll build a bigger case.
She walked out of her office, past the memorial wall, past Maya's photo. The fight wasn't over, would never be over. But every network they dismantled, every predator they caged, every survivor they empowered, that was Maya's legacy. That was justice earned through evidence and courage and the refusal to let evil operate in silence. Sarah had walked into Iron Phoenix carrying her friend's memory and tools designed to preserve truth. She'd walked out carrying confessions and proof that predators were only untouchable until someone decided to touch them. The work continued, case by case, network by network, survivor by survivor. And every single time, Sarah finished what Maya had started. Because that's what warriors did for the ones they loved, for the ones they'd lost, for the ones who deserved better than what they got, but left evidence that others could wield like weapons against the darkness. The predators thought they were safe. They were wrong. Sarah Chen was hunting, and she never stopped until justice was served.